Perfect. And the meeting is now being recorded, which is amazing. And so, hi, I'm Molly Rogers, and I'm the chair of the Juvenile Justice Subcommittee of the Youth Development Council for Youth Development Oregon. And so it's February 14th. Happy birthday to the state of Oregon, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone. I love all of the pink and the red this morning. We do have kind of a busy agenda, so we will kind of jump into it and hope for just some robust conversations, and really want to see if we can't get a couple of products done with today's meeting. But first, I think it's most important to go around the room and introduce ourselves and kind of come together in a moment. And so I am really not super good at icebreakers, so I'm going to make one up really quick of introduce yourself, your affiliation, and something you're looking forward to in the spring. I would do Valentine's Day, but that seems like chocolate and love would just take over with all of that. And I'm just, you know, you guys know me. I'm not so anyway, something you're looking forward to in the spring.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm going to Rome next week though. So I'm looking forward to that. It's not really free, but I'm Lindsay Schoonover. I'm with the Youth Development Division, and I'm the compliance monitor.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anya Sikin. I'm the Associate Director of Youth Development Oregon, and I am looking for the sunshine. At least one ray of sunshine will be sufficient today, but I'm looking for more and more and a lot, and the sun and just everything. And by the way, Melissa brought some brownies today, so we do have chocolate in the room. So those of you online, you're missing out.
My name is Maricela Ortega, YDC board chair and the Tier Network development manager. In the spring, also looking forward to the sun. Any amount of sun is good, but also the cherry blossoms blooming downtown is always a highlight.
Definitely. When we have these meetings in person, then we'll be able to take advantage of them. Melissa Gallardo. I am the executive administrative support for YDO, and I am looking forward to all the bright green that will be happening this spring.
Hi everyone, I'm Joyce Snyder. I'm the admin specialist for prevention and justice. I think I'm mostly looking forward to going out to see the cherry blossoms, taking more walks, and just enjoying. Spring is my favorite weather, so that's really excited for it.
Hello everyone, my name is Lawrence White. I am the Racial and Ethnic Disparity Coordinator for Youth Development Oregon. I'm looking forward to some bike riding in warmer weather in the spring and dry weather as well.
Hello, Debbie Martin with Oregon Youth Authority. I use she, her pronouns. I am looking forward to a trip to San Diego in March. My cousin lives there, and there's some type of immersive Monet experience. There's like some people, I think the Van Gogh one has been through Oregon, but there's a Monet one. It's not the actual works of art, it's like technology combined with music. I'm not exactly sure, but it sounded really cool, so I'm going down for a long weekend and looking forward to it.
That's in San Diego.
Yeah, in San
I
Diego.
have to go. Yeah, there might be 2 suitcases.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I'm Christina McMahon. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Clackamas County Juvenile Department Director. Got to see several of you last month in my shop, which was super fun. My husband just had total knee replacement surgery. I am so looking forward to him recovering and driving and taking over the unpaid Uber driver role. Family, untipped, I might add. So that's what I'm looking forward to. He successfully came through surgery, and now he's on the road to recovery. But I'm kind of doing, I have had to admit it out loud. I didn't really understand all the things that you did, honey. So I did. I admitted it out loud, and a friend of mine who happens to be male was very proud of me for actually admitting it. So anyway, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Kim Lett. I'm a new council member. First of all, apologies for being late. This is my first time in any of these buildings, so it was, whoa. I made it downstairs.
That was the first
upstairs,
test.
everywhere else. I think the question is, what are you looking forward to? And I am looking forward to learning what you all do today, because I'm just so excited to learn what you guys, how you guys lead, and yeah, just really excited to be here. Thank you.
Okay, Sam Cole for Oregon Department of Ed. For the spring, I'm just looking forward to the legislative session ending. I'm being honest. We get bills all the time every year.
I think ODHS and ODE like should run a race, because they bet on props for the everything. There should be a race on which one gets more bills. Online, I can't see everybody online, but I heard rumor that Brian, you are online.
I am. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can
Yes.
hear you. Yeah.
Oh, I see you all. What a great group you all are there in the room. This committee, I'm just happy to see so many lovely faces, some new, some returning. Like, good job, Juvenile Justice Committee. Like, yeah, slaps. What am I looking for? Okay, Brian Detman, Youth Development Oregon Director. I see some other folks online. Judge Collins, Adrian, good to see your faces. Carlos. How about running some races? I think I'm running in like 3 races in the spring.
Are you gonna do the Shamrock Run?
Shamrock, a marathon relay. I'm not running a marathon. I'm just running part of it, like 8 miles. And then I am running a half marathon in early June. So I better be looking forward to those things because I signed up for them.
Can you hand it off to someone, because we can't
I'll
see everybody?
hand it to Adrian.
Okay, yes. Let's see. The first thing that came to mind, and people have already mentioned it, is the cherry blossoms. I love cherry blossoms. And I know our sister city's in Japan. So one of these years I need to get to Japan to see their cherry blossoms too. But then I'm also looking forward to my niece, who is graduating from American University in May. So really excited about that. Yeah. And I will hand it off to Carlos.
Thank you, Adrian. Good afternoon, friends. It's good to see so many friendly and familiar faces and some new folks here. My name is Carlos Rodriguez. He, him, and pronouns. I'm Deputy Director at the Oregon Youth Authority. And something that I'm looking forward to this spring is spending my first spring with my new son.
Amazing.
Doing all the spring things with him and the family. And I will pass it off to Joy.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh.
If you can, I think you need audio from. Yeah, I'm just gonna pass it on to Sarah, Judge Sarah Collins.
All right, can you hear me now? Hi.
Hi.
I am looking forward. I'm going to Tahoe next weekend to ski. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, so just to know that there's a history, we're gonna wish you all the best, because we had Judge Abernathy was one of our Juvenile Justice Committee members, and she was in Tahoe and came home in a cast. So we're gonna hope and wish
Oh. Okay, well, let me find some wood. Knock on wood, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So good luck. That sounds fun in your honor.
Let's see. How about, I can only see certain names. So is it Cliff Tony?
Yeah, that's me, Cliff Tony, Yamhill County. suppose what I'm looking for in the spring is to watch some baseball, and after 24 years of coaching basketball, this is my last year at Willamette High School, so I'll have some free time in the spring.
So Cliff can volunteer. If anybody needs a new volunteer, Cliff's gonna have some free time.
My wife
Thank you,
might
everybody.
argue with you on that one.
That's okay, you can. Anybody else online? Okay. So we're gonna kick off today. The very first thing is the 30-day extended detention application. Anya, do you want me to do the lead-in, or would you like to do the lead-in?
Oh, I would appreciate if you did.
Okay, I would be glad to.
And everybody should have a copy, a printed copy in the room of the draft detention application program. And also it was emailed to everybody invited to the meeting. So if you don't have it printed, it should be available for you to find.
Perfect. So one of the tasks for the YDO, for YDC, is to approve our extended detention programs in the state of Oregon. And there's a rotation, I believe it's every 6 years. They need to be updated. And so really wanted to just, we have 2, I believe, that are coming close to needing to reapply because one maybe changed a bit of its direction and the other one is on a timeline. Is that correct?
It is correct. So we will be looking at Josephine and Deschutes counties.
And so truly, where extended detention fits in the juvenile justice system, when Tori and I did the presentation last time, is extended detention is not the front door to detention. So the extended detention is a sentence. So you'll hear often on the adult side, they were convicted and sentenced. And we talked last time about being adjudicated. And the only detention in the state of Oregon is limited to 8 days of just discretionary detention use, unless the detention facility has a specific approved program for a 30-day extended detention. And so these are youth who are not diversion youth from what we typically think of as, and especially what's really being brought up right now in the legislature as like early diversion in the system. But some communities use diversion dollars from the Oregon Youth Authority to pay for their extended detention. So sometimes you will see the word diversion written or associated with this extended detention. But that definition of diversion is diversion from closed custody. And so I know there's lots of words that we play around with in our system. And so I just wanted to make sure that the extended detention is a very specific sentence in the code, in the juvenile code. And in order for a young person to be in a 30-day extended detention program, there must be an approved program through YDC and YDO. So that is what we're kind of looking at and what the application is for. And so the process up until this point has been, I took the old example of the extended detention and I sent it out to all of the juvenile directors that have counties that have detention facilities in them. And then we were able to get feedback from each of the, well, from many of the counties sent us feedback. And the feedback is in the copy that you received as part of your as part of your packet. So I think maybe I'll leave it, maybe I'll just leave it for questions for a moment or thoughts. I don't want to dominate the conversation. Christina.
Molly, I looked through this and it looks good. I just had a question about on the first page, number 4 talks about the applicants supplying a letter of support from the governing body and the juvenile court judge of the county where the facility is located, which makes sense. I get that. But I was just thinking about how there's so many different things we do where, like, for example, our prevention money, we take it in front of our lipstick. So I was just wondering, for consistency's sake, the folks that are in the lipstick are typically public safety specific folks. It might be a good idea to do the same process that we do with our high-risk juvenile crime prevention plans of running it by. I'm not wed to that. I'm just throwing it out there because they're used to us doing that with approval type things.
So in lieu of the governing board, because it's been interesting, the governing board has become a question, like, do they even know what we're doing? And so I'm curious if that would make sense, since you work in a county and kind of know that piece of the lipstick, who has commissioner representation on it, would make sense. I haven't thought about that.
And they're appointed, everybody in the lipstick has to be appointed, in our county at least, by the Board of County Commissioners. So, you know what I'm saying? They're like delegated to do that work.
Yeah. The only thing is like to note of this. It's not required in statute to get lipstick approval versus it is required to get a judicial approval. Secondly, not every county will have lipstick. So
every county has to have a lipstick.
Now they do?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
Okay, then.
statutorily required, so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
late on mine. So that should we add that?
So my curiosity, I think that especially the counties that I'm thinking of that have detention facilities have pretty active lipsticks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we make it and?
So is the suggestion though to keep the governing body and add lipstick, or remove the governing body and replace it with lipstick? And then judicial has to happen, so.
Yeah.
I'm not up on, I haven't memorized these particular statutes. I would think just having it be the lipstick, if we're allowed to do that by statute, makes more sense.
It's not prohibited, so it's allowed.
Yeah.
Good.
But is the governing body required in statute, or just the judicial is required in
I
statute?
think it's just the judicial.
Yeah, but do we need any county approval now?
Well, the lipstick would be the county approval.
They will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the point, is that
Right, we do
all
that.
of the people,
And they have the authority to do that,
well,
just to be clear.
I'm looking really quick in the OAR. So I think what we could do is if everyone is okay with that, I think we would maybe agree to replace the governing body with lipstick unless it's in the OAR. And then just do an and. Does that seem reasonable?
Right, and I want to apologize. I just realized I threw out an acronym and that drives me crazy when people do it to me. LPSC stands for Local Public Safety Coordinating Council. And by statute, every county has to have one. And it's made up of public safety. What they're coordinating is public safety issues. So on the adult side, community corrections, they have to go before their local LPSC and get approval of the state to use the state funding, the plan that they put together for the community corrections funding they get. So that's just a kind of an example of how that plays out.
Yeah. So it's more people who know what's going on. And so it does not, the OAR says is silent, so we're good.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And also we rely on LPSC for local juvenile crime prevention plans because they have to be approved by LPSC in their respective counties.
I will tell you, so take off my chair hat and put on my detention hat. It will be complex for NORCOR. Because NORCOR has 4 LPSCs. And it has its own governing body that is not county commissioners. And so I would think potentially in the NORCOR exception, we need to have the capacity to have an exception that the governing body is the one that does it. Because as I think about NORCOR, that one's annually.
So should we just make an addition and or?
Yeah.
And Lonnie, some of us may not know the four counties and how. what
Norfolk works,
what-
yeah. So, there are 11 detention facilities in the state of Oregon. 10 of them are operated by single counties. The 11th one is operated by a Chapter 190 intergovernmental agreement. So it's a government unto itself, made up of Hood River, Wasco, Gillum, and Sherman counties. And so I'm the director of the Wasco County Department of Youth Services, but I don't have direct responsibility for Norcor. It's 4 counties, 4 county juvenile department directors that have the responsibility for Norcor. And so our governing body is made up of a county commissioner from each of those 4 counties. So it is a unique bug and has its own statutory authority for Norcor. And Norcor is one of the ones that runs a 30-day extended detention program. Does that help? Yeah. I know, you were with me yesterday at Norcor. The other comments back, so when I originally sent this out, the previous application had said the policies and procedures for the program. And the fact that a 30-day extended detention is still detention, I couldn't figure out how not all of the policies were for the program. I did get some thoughts and pushback from absolutely respectful pushback. They were wonderful from the detention and juvenile director saying, our policy manual is 5 inches thick. Do you really want to see all of our policies? And my answer was probably not. But I do think we want to see your behavior management policies, your access to education policies, and your kind of therapeutic treatment policies. And so then it got us thinking about what we probably really want to see in a lot of ways is their table of contents to make sure they have a comprehensive set of policies and a select few policies around the programmatic specific. Does that seem less unyielding versus 5 inches of policies?
Yeah, and just as a point of clarification, Molly, number 5 says that they have to provide documentation of the most recent DOC inspection, Department of Corrections inspection. And it's been a long time since I've had to do that, but my recollection was the Department of Corrections inspector would review all, when they came, they would, as part of that inspection process, they would review all of our policies. They would sit down, it was part of the checklist. Is that still the case? It's been a long time since I've done that.
It is, and there, I actually have some recommendations from juvenile departments on number 5 too.
Okay.
So
I was gonna say, if that's staying in, we know that to pass the inspection, they had to have the inspector from the Department of Corrections go through all those policies. And I can remember when I was in Douglas County, them saying, hey, this policy, they gave us very specific feedback.
including about vermin and your health department checks and all of those, and they make sure you have all of your inspections. So they're a very compliance inspection list.
Yeah.
Molly, would it be, I agree that I don't know that anybody wants to wade through that many policies in this review process.
We have in
If you would like to, Anya, I'm sure they would comply just for you. But I'm wondering if it would make sense to not only say like table of contents, but then add something that says like that you need to produce any of your detention policies upon request.
Correct.
So it's not just like, hey, we send you the list, that's all you're gonna get. But if there's a need for, like, we need to see this, that they do know they have to provide it.
Well, I think there's some we do want to see, like behavior management plan.
Right.
Sure, I didn't mean like
Yeah.
you would just get a list, but then others that you didn't immediately think you needed, if you needed follow-up, but they know they have to provide it.
Yeah. So Molly, could I add a little bit of the process?
Yes.
So in the process of the detention approval, 30-day detention program approval. So this is how it happens. County or group of counties in case of Norco decides that they would like to operate a 30-day extended detention program because it fits their juvenile justice continuum, and each entity would give us a reason or a list of reasons why it's necessary and why the judge feels that this is an appropriate thing. So once they decided to do that, they submit an application to us, and this is what we're discussing right now. By the way, I forgot to put the date of submission.
Oh, yeah.
We'll ask. And
You guys will do that. You'll make it all pretty.
yeah. But see, well, the date of submission is important because we have to approve the program within 120 days since the moment it's submitted. So within this 120 days, what needs to happen is we review the application. If there are any questions from the committee to the facility submitting the application, we'll go back and forth with some additional information. So this would be the time to request for a sample policy. So if you want to look at the behavioral health policy, so they don't need to necessarily submit everything at the date of the submission. And then, so it happens then, so we set a visit time, and then we go in person, and everybody is invited to come to that meeting. It takes about a couple of hours, right, Sam and Molly?
Yeah.
Well, we've done it in the past.
Yeah.
So this is the time when you actually ask to bring those policies to the table. And if you're inclined so to do, then you can read all the stack of policies, but they need to be available during that inspection visit.
But they don't have to make copies for us.
They
for the
have to make
application.
copies, so they don't have to send everything to us.
Yeah, so this is the application to get it rolling. That's why the table of contents tended to make sense to then say, oh, well, these are the ones we're gonna wanna look at when we're there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then for me, like, you know, for the application, like, as I think I said in the past too, one, I have a couple of concerns. One is, hopefully students of color are not disproportionately in the 30-day detention versus, because our data shows kids in residential, then into juvenile detention, into OIA, you know.
Deeper in the system, there's more
Yeah.
disproportionality.
Yeah, so I just hope this is not another location, you know, or setting where, you know, more students of color are being detained. And next, for education, a lot of the JADA programs, except for Multnomah, they're all one teacher programs. Well, Marion has two now, like, you know. So, and they're built for, not built, but, you know, they're configured for like short-term stays, like 3 or 4 days. But now, when you go 30 days, our programs will have to up their game. Well, they're doing their, so that kids can earn academic credit. Because if they're gone for 30 days from their school, they could fall further behind. So that is one of the things when we do go, that's why I try to visit with them to make sure to tell the JADA program, the kids have to be able to earn credit there. Because, you know, they're gonna lose, otherwise they're not gonna graduate, you know, 30 days.
So I think your point is really well, and in question number 14, when we get to that, I think we need to add. So we just have in there truly what is the Juvenile Detention Education Program's transition plan for youth leaving extended detention. I think we need to add what is the Juvenile Detention Education Program's not just transition plan for youth for extended detention, but plan for student achievement while in the 30-day program. Is that how we would put it?
Awarding of credits.
Awarding of credits. Okay, so we'll just put awarding of credits during, because that definitely, the last 2 years, we have beefed up the education programs in most of the detention facilities, so that makes total sense.
And if I could add like a C or D, like diplomas, because if a 30-day detention happens in like beginning part of June, that's a
So
diploma.
Sam,
graduation.
would you mind adding the language?
Yeah, I can add
see
it.
to that draft document and send it back to us?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Because
And
also
also-
graduation and diploma.
Right, because that will be super important. So everybody should know, we've never, just in my, since I've been doing this work, we've never gone to approve any detention program without Sam looking at educational component. So we just don't go without Sam.
Yeah.
He's a really quiet partner.
It's so much our
No.
And your other point, I really want to bring up, let me catch that one in just a minute, because I think that's, so 5, so I'm gonna kind of walk through these a little bit, because you're absolutely right on 5, the request was, actually, this was a request, I can't believe it. Documentation of most current Department of Corrections inspection and or detention guidelines review. Because the hope and plan for detention guidelines in the future is that we'll do site visits for detention guidelines. And the request was that that's probably even more appropriate than the Department of Corrections inspection. But we're not quite there yet. So that was another request, was to refer to the detention guidelines in this particular piece. And so that was from Tori Lynn from Lynn County.
You mean instead of having to submit your DOC report?
Because part of the detention guidelines is the DOC report.
Oh, like I said, it's been a while since I've run a detention.
Yeah, so it actually then just gets incorporated into that, because that's one of the very first things that we reviewed at Lynn County was our DOC report.
So maybe we'll include it once we're up and running with our
So that,
detention reviews.
so that was the piece, was just referenced that if we get to that point. So yes, it was
We'll
just,
get to that.
I know.
point, But Glenn will get to that.
yeah, but it was just, that was his comment, that was his feedback for us, was just, let's go ahead and call it out and put them in there so that they're tied together.
Sure.
Then the piece that Sam brought up, which was amazing yesterday to do that, was in 6 or 8, I'm not sure which one we put this, describe the juvenile population intended for admission, or describe the screening criteria or referral process. Is how does your program,
On page 2, right?
yeah, on page 2. How does the program, I don't know how, Lawrence may be, I might be leaning on you here.
Well, before I answer that, I have a question.
Yeah.
Concerning pretty much this area, actually. And forgive me if I'm missing something in the draft, but I did look at the OAR concerning extended detention program. And if anyone wants to find it, it's 423-150-0010. And if you look at subsection 4, B and C, and it says that an extended detention program must include in B a description of the type of behavior that the program is intended to reform, and C, the reason that the type of behavior that the program is intended to reform requires detention. I asked that just to kind of lean on what Sam had just spoken on, do we want to create something where we're placing youth in situations that may not necessarily be justified based on what someone would determine as behavior. And I can't seem to find where it's required in this draft to demonstrate that. Am I missing something in here? I look at 8, and that could fall into that area. 10 also, as well as 19, but it's not very specific to me. So I guess I'm just looking for some clarity on that specific requirement that's located in the extended detention.
Does 17 kind of get close to that?
Well,
Question 17.
So I think it's an interesting piece where we come up and we ask which, I think we start to get to it, but I think we might want to reword it. So describe the juvenile population intended for admission to the program. It might be, we need to change that to behavior. Right, what is the specific behavior? Describe the juvenile population and the specific behavior the extended detention program is focused. Lawrence, am I kind of getting there?
Yes, absolutely.
You're looking at number 6?
I am, because some of the programs really are very specific to like sexual offending behavior. And some of them are very specific to girls. One of them was a girls specific program. And then the second part, I think in the describe the screening criteria, as I was talking before about diversion from closed custody is where this typically is at, the question is, are these youth at risk of, so I'm leaning on my Kojak ones or my Norcor ones. I don't know, but we have Cliff. We have a lifeline here that we can actually ask Yamhill County. But we have a specific question on ours that they have to be at imminent risk of placement in a youth correctional facility. And if this program wasn't there, that's where they would be going. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So that means, so it takes it to that level of, this is literally the last option, kind of thing. So it's not the first option.
Yes. And as long as I guess it's expressed.
That I think we can ask it to be expressed. Cliff, are you on here?
I am.
What would you say for the Yamhill County program?
You know, we haven't used it a lot lately. We have one currently that just started, and most of the time, I'll be real honest with you, it's kids who are in an opportunity to get through our program and be done with probation. Is the recent ones that we've been doing, because if they can get through it, then they're going to stop looking for maybe placement if they can complete our 30 days. And then I think there's typically, it depends on the county, because we do serve Tillamook County, Polk County, Washington County, our county. Currently it's a Tillamook, and it's like you're going to do the program. If you can successfully pass the 30 days through this program, there'll be like a 30-day gap afterwards with probation, and then be done with probation altogether. So it's much like yours. It's typically has to be something that it's for something. You know, we're trying to give them some skills. This current one, I met with the mother for an hour today. We're trying to determine different ways that we can help with this young man's behavior, so that when he leaves, he has skills so he can be successful.
Cool. But I think maybe if we add a question, or maybe even to 8, describe the screening criteria. Are these youth at risk of commitment to the Oregon Youth Authority? Because that's really that stop gap. Or there's a best interest finding. Judge Collins, you see a lot of juveniles. Have you ever placed a youth in a 30-day extended detention?
So I had explained when I agreed, and I'm happily on the committee, but I am not currently, I have a hybrid docket of adult criminal and domestic relations. I was appointed just, about 7 months ago, and I practiced extensively, obviously juvenile and delinquency and dependency, but I, as a judge, have not dealt with that issue.
Okay, that's totally okay. Just any insight from your thoughts? Like, can you imagine, what county are you a judge in?
Sorry, I'm a judge in Jackson County, and I had sent you all a message. I had to go on the bench, and I got back like 4 minutes ago. So I don't want to, sorry.
That's okay. Does Jackson County have a 30-day extended detention?
No.
They do not. I did not think that they did. But I do know that Jackson County has a residential program.
Right across the hall.
Right across the hall. And so I would probably equate a lot of the young people who go to the residential program in Jackson County as the same kids that go to 30-day programs in the rest of the state. Your program's just awesome.
Molly, the only thing
that program is amazing.
Yeah.
That I would add to that discussion, and we've got, I think maybe one OA, OA maybe has one contract right now with a 30-day program. We may have more in the future, but so ours isn't, to prevent risk to OA, because they're already with us. It is more to prevent either escalation or revocation.
That's the words I need. We need to, how does a 30-day extended detention prevent escalation further in the system? And that could be on a YA side or a county side. Yeah. Good wording.
But you guys have youth care center too.
We do use youth care centers for sure as well, but those aren't always available. So, you know, we like to diversify, and sometimes just a shorter amount of time is what's needed as well, so.
Yeah. But good catch, I think, Lawrence, is really about escalation. And then I think also it's okay to ask programs to keep data, demographic data on who they serve. We do. Jay just does it.
Yeah.
Totally.
It should be fairly easy.
It's very easy. Jay just does it for us.
So to Sam's question, can we pull that information out from JJ's just specific to 30-day detention programs across the state?
I would have to look because I'm not overly, and Cliff might be able to better say, I'm not overly familiar with custody episodes. It's not an area that I work in a lot. But when you do an admission, I think you have to do an admission reason. And if the admission reason is it's a 30-day extended program, then we should be able to pull demographics just on that.
I think it's done in the annual reports.
Is it in there?
I think so.
Yeah.
In the programs and services?
I think so. I would, the answer is yes, because I do know what the custody episode looks like, and 30-day extended detention is one of the custody episode options. And I think at least the ones I know of, if a young person's in detention and then gets put in the 30-day, they release and readmit to the 30-day program because it's a specific sanction. So it tracks it.
Just in case, JJ's is the Juvenile Justice Information System.
See what I started.
You did. Okay. Other thoughts. So I think we can get that, but I think that's important for us to be able to take a look at least on an annual basis, statewide, to make sure that it's not disproportionately that we're paying attention to that. It's not overused. Okay. Other thoughts and looks at them?
Could there be a possibility, like, for instance, like Isaac had a 30-day detention, then the county decided to add on another 30-day. This 30-day, that's the maximum rate.
Unless they have a new violation.
Unless there's a new violation.
But not consecutively, right?
You can't, no, you can't stack it. Yeah. They'd have to get released from the 30-day, have another violation, go through the court process of that, and then be ordered again for another 30-day.
Correct. And most 30-day programs will not accept a youth a second time.
Can I see the video journey now?
I don't think you have to leave that with you.
Well, 29.
But he's on.
We should ask people for their thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it's, yes, so online, well, I have a couple more things. Up to page 2, any suggestions?
It's sort of page 2 because it flips to page 3.
Okay.
It's 11.
Yes.
Because like 11, there's examples that start on page 3.
Yeah, I know.
So it gives it like a list of like, here's the services and activities that may be provided. And I don't know what's typical. And these are big categories, obviously. But in my mind, what I think of is like some typical stuff that we might want to think about calling out is like social skill development, just psychosocial development, just kind of some type of other than just behavioral health, mental health, SUD, just other like just basic skill building.
Oh my gosh, you must have been on the conversation with the juvenile director that called me on this. Yeah, and said, hey, will you put some drop downs in this?
Ah, yes. And that would be great too. You could just do drop downs. And then if this is meant to.
It's just the application.
Yeah, so is it meant to be just give us a list of what you provide or explain?
Kind of give us a list so that we can then explore it further.
Okay, yeah, so then a drop down would be great.
Yeah, that was the ask was from one of the juvenile directors is give us some drop downs rather than just open-ended, things that we could fill up 5 or 6 pages with.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, so
Yeah, like skills groups.
skills groups,
Yeah.
Education services, who buy just some basic kind of things. Many of the facilities have like horticulturists, they have, even though Jackson County doesn't have an extended detention, they have CTE with their laser printer and their print shop. So, and then the original one had left out kind of behavioral health. It had just talked about, I think it was mental health, not, and then also medical services was brought up. So that would, if everyone would be okay to just do some basic drop downs, that was a suggestion.
That's great.
Yeah. And again, in the described transition planning was the same thing, that those are just too big of asks that you could write lots and lots on, is if we could do some drop downs there. And then that's all I had from the feedback from the counties.
So I had a question, like.
Yeah.
What's like, for like, if you were to do this?
Yeah.
Would it take like 4 hours, 2 hours, like 18 hours, like how many? So I don't want it to be too onerous for them too.
So that's why they wanted the drop downs, was exactly that reason. I think most of them have done them in the past. So if you were starting a brand new one, I think it would take a little bit of time. But I think most of the, it's not a complete change to the application.
So it take about like 4 hours to do it, 8
I think 4.
hours, 4 hours?
Yeah.
But it's once in 6 years.
Yeah.
That's nothing compared to the high-risk juvenile crime prevention plan.
And Sam, if they have done it in the last 6 years, if they just re-up it, it'll probably take about 2 hours.
So it's for those who never had the detention, extended detention program first time around, that's probably the most challenging, but we will be always ready to help if needed. I'm here to help, you know, we can also look into
Okay,
other facilities.
other thoughts?
Yes, I did have
Okay.
one more, sorry. So I wondered on 20, if there's something specific as to why that is called out, and would it make more sense as a drop down in number 11? Because I feel like it's the same question of what are the services and activities to support that population. It's not quite the same because it is saying, hey, you need to, and so I was like, I didn't know, like if traditionally there has been like, you have to have an answer for this, or if it can be a drop down with number 11.
So it was added when we got the technical support from and Basic Rights of Oregon helped us go through stuff. So I'd be interested in, so that's how it got added, but I don't know where it belongs. Is there a better place?
No, I mean, if that's the history, that's totally fine. And then I would also say, and follow up to that, because if 11 is going to be a drop down and cultural opportunities is just a drop down and not a requirement, but how you serve LGBTQ youth is a requirement, then I feel like there should be a requirement to answer how are you going to serve, youth from different, from all backgrounds.
So I'm open to, what do other people think of adding it to 11 with some drop downs on what services are specifically available, or leaving it open-ended? I don't have an opinion.
Well, if it's a drop down, I think you can just skip over it and not select it. If it's a specific question, it requires you to respond to it. And I think I just wanted to comment a little bit on my thought about why this is called out separately. There's been a lot of research about how LGBTQ plus youth are overrepresented in the juvenile justice system pretty significantly, and especially in detention settings. And I know this is irregular detention, but so I think it's an attempt to try to make sure that we're addressing those needs. But I hear your point about the cultural opportunities is also
As disproportionate.
kind of just like, oh, I won't select that drop down. I actually think we should have a separate question. We do on our high-risk
Yep.
juvenile
So
crime
I was just
prevention
gonna
plan.
say, like, I think I'm misunderstanding drop down
Me too.
situation.
I think me too.
To me, drop down, it drops down, but you have to fill it out. You still have to answer the questions. It's not,
Right,
you cannot, yeah, so I have no problem adding, like moving it from question 20 to 11 as one in that area, but you still have to describe. So say cultural opportunities, describe what it is that you're offering. LGBTQ plus youth, describe what it is that you're doing. So it's not, you cannot like, it's a mandatory question.
But
Cannot be ignored.
usually how drop down works in a document like that though is let's say you have, 10 options and you pick the 3, like I do this,
You
this, and
cannot move
this.
on unless you answer the question.
Right, but answering the question is taking 3 of them off the list. And if you don't choose LGBTQ, you've still answered the question because you chose the
And then
3.
we'll call them and say you didn't answer the question.
Well, but then there's a lot of back and forth, so why do that? Like, why build in
Yeah.
like confusion that
I
way?
don't disagree. I think we should add an additional question. I think it's more important to call it out and add.
So the way I'm looking at, somebody will need to give me a tutorial on drop downs because I always thought it just like, okay, so the questions was in that category, answer each one of them, and the drop down so you don't forget. Anyway, so I'm thinking like every one of the questions, whether it's a drop down or not, need to be answered.
So drop downs typically give you some choices. So it would be the drop down on 11 could be done 2 different ways. You would click education services, and then under education services, you could click 5.5 hours on site, detention for 220 days. You could click CTE program, and you could click
SUD training.
well, you could, no, because, yeah, well,
Isn't that one?
no, education would be
Credits.
online, credit recovery.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking
Yeah.
another category.
Yeah, okay,
altogether.
so
My bad.
then we're missing a lot of things. So in order to do drop downs like you're describing, then we need to add those.
Yes, and we
menu
have to come up with
of
some
drop
things.
downs.
Yes,
So
so
so then we will need to come up with those different options.
correct. Then under recreation, you could have indoor sports, you could have outdoor recreation area, you could have boys and girls, or you could add outside agencies come in. You could add a couple drop downs. That's gonna require more work on us.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to avoid.
Okay, then we leave them open-ended and make them answer
Yeah,
those.
let's just leave them open-ended, and I mean, we don't ask them to write an essay. But seriously, just very brief description.
Is this gonna be online, like on a survey or like a Word document?
I don't know, we've never had it online, it was always just, so this is just so you understand. That document has been evolving since it was created by the Criminal Justice Commission in 1999 or earlier than that.
1999.
Yeah, so what we've done over the last few years, we've taken the original document and made some changes to it. Once the legislative changes occurred and best practices evolved, like with LGBTQ plus use, but it really hasn't changed much. The agencies have changed, the best practices have changed, but not the core of the document. So it was always offered as a Word document for people to fill out. I don't know if it makes sense to put it online. It kind of gets a little more technically challenging for a technically challenged person like myself.
I think there's a request from the facilities to have it to be able to upload. But I don't know that we have the technology to do that.
Well, upload in a system. We don't have a system for that. All we have is a website.
And to do
Right,
just
so-
send it back in a PDF with attachments.
So what we could do, so people can send it use it in a Word format, right? And then we can PDF it, and if necessary, put it on. I mean, we don't have a problem putting it on our website.
No, I think though a fillable PDF is what would,
Oh, I see.
Mhm.
is
Well,
what,
Joy, do you know how to do it? If you know how to do it, then we can offer that.
So we can do it in Microsoft Forms.
Yeah, so something. Yeah, we'll work on the technological thing, but we're not creating a website for that. Like a separate portal, like a portal.
so if we did it through forms or PDF, we could do, character restrictions so that they know they don't have to write 5 pages on the programmatic piece, which gets to the same point of making it succinct, but still covering the topics.
So let's, we'll look into making it more technologically up to date versus what was done in 1999.
It might be time to move on.
Well, I know OYA has excellent technical abilities to create all kind of wonderful
I know, but she's retiring.
documents. Well, so we can grab her well before she retires.
So I'm gonna go back to the question. If we do it that way where people have to respond, should it be, so now they have to respond to the question, open-ended. Should number 20 come into 11? And be covered as a specific response? Okay, I'm seeing nods of heads.
Adrian, she had her hand.
I can't see,
raised.
oh, thank you, please, Adrian.
Yes, thank you. I didn't want to interrupt the conversation. But yes, I was gonna say, I do think it should remain in there, something that's called out, because I know whether it's for our ethnic population or gender identity, things have to be called out for people to actually respond to, and that helps to bring the intentionality. So I think moving it up to 11 sounds good.
I agree, totally agree. We have to call it out. And it doesn't apply today, but 10 years ago, it really applied when several juvenile detention facilities still double bunked or had group sleeping arrangements. None of them do anymore, but they did for a really long time. So, okay. I'm gonna open it up. Please online, jump in as well. Anything else for the guidelines?
So I think
it might be enough.
That was great.
So the plan is I will try to incorporate all the changes that were discussed and suggested today. But also Sam, if you could also do yours. And if you could find somebody like super technologically savvy who could make this a wonderful format, that would be very much appreciated. Otherwise, we'll stay with Word for now.
I still have Jan a little bit longer, but she is retired.
But yeah, as a wonderful partner to us.
I don't know that I would want to volunteer to do this, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to put something like on SM Apply.
That went over my head.
See, that's why I was suggesting not to do SM Apply for people. Yeah. But anyway, essentially, SM Apply is a system that Youth Development Oregon uses for all of our other grant applications, and we will get to it later. So, but I think for now, let's just finish formatting the way it is. But eventually, because SM Apply is going away too.
Okay.
Anyway.
So the plan will be with the changes that we made today, the behind the scenes part of it, we'll make that magic happen. And we'll send it out to the committee. And unless there's any glaring changes, would we be able to make the recommendation to the YDC at our next meeting that this is our new application?
I think so.
Okay.
Next meeting is in March.
Right, in March, because I know that one program needs to be done and one wants to change its, and wants to apply because it wants to change its focus. The other part that I know on the back end, one of the things that we are going to want to add is a letter from us back to the programs with our approval and a certificate, almost a certificate of approval, so that And the reason this is really important, it's come up in our jurisdictions, is because judges want to see that certificate of approval and know that that it's been reviewed by the Youth Development Oregon. And so we haven't had that back end process in the past. And I know that Anya's been asked and hit up for those kind of things several times recently. And so we'll have that back end of the approval.
So basically what we've had before, which is not sufficient, as I understand now, we will send an email confirming not based on the application you submitted and reviewed by the committee members and site visits which was conducted, blah, blah, blah. Your program has been approved, but it's an email form. It doesn't have a.
It's not on this really pretty letterhead.
Yeah, well, when you, so what I'll do, I will also draft like a certification type template and have it for your review at the next meeting.
Yep. Okay. Congratulations. We have successfully got one of our tasks done and moving forward, which is really great and important and valued by your county partners. Next on the agenda is probation reform. Did you participate in the meeting?
I did not, because I was on vacation, but there are a couple of folks there who did.
Marcella and Debbie and Lawrence?
Lawrence and I and Brian.
And Brian, okay. I was unable to participate in the phone call, so is there an update from you all?
Not much of one. It was, you guys jump in,
Yes.
please, but it was just a little bit of an intro and Iowa talked about some stuff they've been working on and just a little bit of update. And then they broke us into small groups by states. There's 5 states involved in this process, 5, so broke into small groups to kind of talk about what was next. And it was Brian and Lawrence and I. And so we're like, okay, like we don't know what's next, but all right, here we are. And then we went back into the group and that was really about it. And
Yes.
there was, and I know it was just chatting with Anya a little bit before the meeting, they did bring up the certificate program, Georgetown's on probation reform, and that like, hey, it might be a good opportunity. And there was one of the states that was thinking, was kind of looking at it, thinking about applying for it. So that was kind of brought up a little bit. And they said, can't remember the person's name now from the program that said, hey, if you guys want, if any of you are thinking about it and want help with it, like, let me know. But there really wasn't. It wasn't Brock. It was, you remember Lawrence, the name of that other person? It was a woman.
Okay, so I'm gonna back up about 10
Anyway.
yards.
Yeah.
And talk about probation reform. Because we have new members. And so my guess is that new members are thinking, what are you guys talking about? So again, we're the Juvenile Justice Subcommittee. We also act as the state advisory group for the OJJDP. And OJDP is Office of Juvenile Delinquency and Prevention Programs, and it's a federal program where we do some of our grant work. And about 24 months ago, we had the opportunity to apply to be a state to start to look at probation reform. And what that truly is out of a partnership with CJJ and the Annie Casey Foundation, which are our 2 national nonprofits, partnered together to look at ways to get better outcomes for youth who are on probation. And so taking a look at what structures are for probation and what the best practices of probation are for. And so a team of us went back to Baltimore for a couple of days and spent some time just learning about what we ended up really kind of doing is learning about our own system and mapping out our own system. And when we mapped out our own system on this piece of paper and white thing, we found it's really complex, which is why we invited Tori to really talk to the Juvenile Justice Subcommittee last month about the juvenile justice system and where probation fits in. Because oftentimes in other states, probation is used much more than what Oregon uses probation. So when we think about probation reform, it's really more about supervision reform, because we do a lot of what are called formal accountability agreements, if you remember, in the list. And so when we looked at it, working on probation reform specifically as a slice really impacts a smaller number of our youth versus what supervision reform could be, which is a lot around the formal accountability agreement youth. And we learned about incentive-based probation, and we learned about opportunity probation when we were back there visiting, and we learned a lot from Youth Voice. So there were 3 youth leaders that really led a lot of the probation reform discussion and kind of walked through us on that. And so that's kind of, and we learned what a role of us as SAG could be in probation reform. And really our role as a SAG in probation reform is about setting the expectations for the formula grants. And really, because we have a little bit of money that we have some say over each year in our 3-year plan, is really incentivizing projects or grantees who are interested in doing probation reform. So us as a SAG, we're not going to do probation reform. But what we have the capacity and opportunity to do is to promote probation reform using a few dollars. Did I do that fair?
Yeah.
Anya, Brian, Lawrence, did I do that a fair?
Excellent.
Okay.
The only thing I'd say, Molly, just so folks are clear, I think you said something about the SAG, the full YDC, the full council
Is the SAG.
is the SAG, not the committee.
Sorry, you're correct.
Yeah, so just so including the committee, but the whole Youth Development Council is the state advisory group.
Correct, I apologize, yes, thanks for the correction.
And then for clarification, for, because I'm a layman, the difference between parole and probation.
Yeah, the difference between parole and probation. Debbie.
So there's a kind of a clear dividing line. Probation is any youth who have never been placed in a correctional facility. Parole is they have been in a correctional facility and are now back out in the community under supervision. And so that's parole.
So they both have a supervising officer. In fact, OA calls them juvenile probation and parole officers, JPPOs. And at the county level, we call them juvenile probation officers. Because we don't have parole, because we don't operate youth correctional facilities. That's so funny. When I, early in my career, before I actually graduated from law school, I asked that very question. I never understood what the difference between the two was. So, it's a good question.
So we're just looking at kids that haven't been at at a YCF.
If we're looking at supervisions, yeah.
But before and after.
Right,
We're looking at
right.
memory.
Yeah, which does include some OA youth.
Yeah.
We have a fair number of youth that are just probation youth.
Right, but that have never been at to YCF.
Correct.
Is correct.
Questions?
Newbie question. but,
Absolutely.
So with probation reform, what exactly is it that we are looking to do?
Sure. Let other people answer before I do.
Well, I thought when I was reading through some of the materials, one thing that pops out for me is you described it at supervision reform, because and Molly touched on it, but really trying to use a lens of the least invasive, for lack of a better term, the least restrictive option of how we work with kids. So when kids are on probation, they're usually under conditions of obviously court-ordered conditions, right? There are other less restrictive ways. I mean, my probation officers are really in the business of that young person and their family. I mean, it really is pretty intrusive at times because of what we're ordered to do as part of supervising them. So when I think about it, it's the really looking creatively at how can we work with kids to accomplish the goals of reformation or interrupting the negative behavior in the least intense way, so that we're not inadvertently disrupting natural sports out in the community. So, the whole business of being under probation, having sometimes that leads to kids having, for example, electronic monitoring. So they're going to school with an ankle bracelet on, and other kids see that. And that's intrusive, that's embarrassing, that can be really humiliating. So, do we need to go from 0 to 60 with kids? Can we back it up? In our county, we've really looked at how, we've always had diversion, as you know, Debbie, but working, for example, with our district attorney to try to have less kids actually filing less petitions in juvenile court and putting kids on formal court probation. That's one example. That would be, yeah, I'm just trying to give a
So another example that's kind of a radical example, that's just kind of just radical, because I'm gonna share that with you, is one of the model sites has what they call opportunity probation. And so, for example, a young person gets points every time they come and do a check-in with their probation officer or their juvenile court counselor. And it's kind of like going to the dentist is what always reminds me, is you get little stars, and then it's token economy. And if you get so many tokens with your JCC, your probation officer, maybe you get to have a coffee card. So it's rewarding good behavior versus catch me if you can on bad behavior. That's just one example of something that can be looked at. And it happens that right now in the state of Oregon, the judges, OJD, Oregon Judicial Department, has what's called the Juvenile Delinquency Improvement Project, which is really looking at this whole notion of kind of the system. And so some jurisdictions that may want to kind of kick off with that and do something, we have some dollars that we could write criteria around that could support that. So our role is the big policy and the money role of it.
And I think I would just add a little bit to that. So the 5 states that were there, and I'm not gonna remember all of them: Maine, Iowa, Washington, Minnesota, and us.
You did it.
There was no one definition of probation reform, right? There was no one, everybody has to work towards this specific goal. It was really specific to each state to kind of determine because one state might be like, we're really gonna focus on this, and the other state's like, well, we really got that already, we don't need to focus on that, but here's where we really need some help. So I think it's just up for each state to kind of determine what's the biggest need, or what's gonna have the best impact, or whatever. So I don't know that it's been completely defined yet, honestly, for us.
No, I think, and that was our aha moment, is that it had to expand from just probation, because we put so few kids on probation, and other states petition almost all kids. Marcella, you were with us.
Yeah.
Did I cover it kind of okay?
Yeah, I think, Christina, what you mentioned is not being so intrusive when you don't have to be, being able to, give the positive reinforcements, I think is really important. And, I think it will create more of a just positive environment for you to participate in, versus I think a lot of what we heard at that conference was folks talking about how they weren't able to gather with family, or they weren't able to do these cultural things because of issues with probation. And so a lot of that was brought up, which was really eye-opening, and we want them to do those things, and kind of, be more involved in their communities, and that was actually preventing it, so.
The opportunity-based probation is really intriguing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, Pierce County, Washington's had it for a while. So I remember even pre-COVID, Jennifer Kearley and I from Washington County were like, we want to know more about this. We read an article in it, a whole paper, let's go we were all ready to do a road trip and let's go check it out. And then they just weren't really that responsive to our requests at the time. And that's fine, that happens, but I'm like, I'm all down for a road trip.
So I am really, really dear friends with those guys,
Mhm.
and they get asked about it once a week to have people come
Yeah.
look at and so Multnomah County, because they are a probation reform site, was able to get up to Pierce County. And I think if we were to ask them to a statewide conversation, both TJ and Kevin would be open to that, but they do get asked about once a week to come do site visits on their opportunity probation.
So do you think it's something that we should plan to do?
I think we should ask them.
Yeah, just ask them and see if they'll be willing to host us for a day. And if there's anybody who would like to take a trip up to Tacoma.
Yeah.
To have this conversation before so with the probation reform, Molly mentioned the federal money. So we're about to get into the next 3-year planning process. And we would have started already, but we have not received the solicitation from the feds for the next 3-year planning activities. But the idea was that we would use probation reform as a central focus for the next 3-year plan with emphasis on racial and ethnic disparities. So it's in the planning, but we don't have anything solid yet. So the potentially visiting Pierce County might be helpful in helping us shape up the plan for the future. And yes, once submitted and provided approved by the OJDP, then we will be receiving federal funding that can be dedicated to that effort. So we don't have the money yet for that purposes, but we are in a situation where we can plan for it.
Yeah.
So do you want to call Pierce County?
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
Or have them come to the OJDA conference, pay for them to come down.
I suppose we could send up are all the workshops filled?
No, we're still working on it.
So we could I could send them I would be glad to do that. I would be glad to.
We have a proposal presentation form.
The form.
Yeah, but
we could fill a presentation form out. I can get a hold of TJ and Kevin and see if they're available at that time. Tacoma to Seaside's a quick trip.
Yeah, pay their way.
Yeah.
So Kim, once a year, Oregon, Christina, you're the president. Would you like to talk about the association and the conference that you annually put together? For some people who don't know what it is.
Well, I know we're running behind on some things, but yes, I'm the president of the Oregon Juvenile Department Directors Association, and that it consists of the 36 county juvenile departments. And we have two real parts of our mission, advocacy and policy development, best practices, that's kind of one part of it. And then the other part is really training so that we can make sure that the folks that work in our juvenile departments have the skills and the knowledge to be able to do their very best work with kids and families. So that's our association. So that latter part of our mission, every year we put on our annual training conference, and we have keynote speakers, we have all kinds of different presentations, and it's hosted. We have 4 regions in our association, and we rotate around. Each of the 4 regions has to take turns planning and putting on the conference. So this year it is being planned by the Metro region, which is The largest region in population, smallest region in the number of counties. Only 3 counties in it versus Kojak that has 17 counties. So anyway, it's in Seaside, Oregon. We always try to have it in September, third week of September typically. And that's what Anya was talking about in Molly, because we have different sessions. So this would be a potential top. Good idea, Sam.
And if they accept the invitation, we would support,
pay for it, yeah.
financially, and also all state advisory group members are invited and encouraged to attend any type of training, such as the directors conference. And do you remember the dates, Christina?
Yes, it's in Seaside, Oregon, starts Sunday, September 15th. And it starts in the evening with a president's reception. It's really a networking thing. And then Monday morning, we begin with our keynote speaker, go all day, have a banquet Monday night. And then Tuesday, another keynote session, breakout sessions all day till about 3. And then the conference ends on Tuesday, the 17th.
So if you're interested in participating, please let Melissa know, and we'll be happy. And we will provide financial support for that. So of course we'll pay your registration and your travel and everything.
So
and CLEs and the judges. So CLEs are available, because I know that for an attorney.
Well, they're going to be available. We haven't really done that before, but we're partnering with the Oregon Judicial Department, and something that's a little bit different is we're doing some pretty intentional outreach to other system partners. We always have a lot of people from OIA there. We have county juvenile department folks, a judge here or there, but this year we're really partnering with the Oregon Judicial Department, and we believe, from what we've been told through the Juvenile Delinquency Improvement Project at OJD, that there's going to be a pretty significant turnout of juvenile court judges. And we have an education committee through JDIP that I joined to kind of bridge between our training efforts and their training efforts. And the defense bar in Oregon that represents young people, they have representation on that. They're very excited because OJD is going to do the work to make sure that there's continuing legal education credits. So we're really going after the people that represent kids, prosecutors in juvenile court, and judges. And then I know that they are also reaching out to child welfare, other system partners. So it's going to be have a more multidisciplinary feel than maybe it's had in other years. And I don't want to, Sam, you've gone to our conference many, many years. So you are obviously from a different discipline than juvenile justice, but I think you're going to see a bigger concentration of other folks from different fields.
Is Tabidi on the line?
Oh, he had to leave.
Oh, he had to leave. Okay, because he joined us in Seaside.
Yeah.
As one of our juvenile justice committee members.
So Anya, who would be the best person? We just developed our save the date announcement. Should we send that to you or Melissa? Who do you want?
Melissa.
Okay, we'll make sure, Melissa, we get it out to you so you can maybe send it to everybody on the YDC. So
thank you. Okay, all right. That's a lot about probation reform. There is no deadline, so it'll just be a topic we continue to have a conversation about. The RFA, Anya, take it away.
So, Lawrence and I have been working with a procurement officer who was finally assigned to us and develop.
It's forever.
I didn't say anything about funny.
No, in February, like 11 months later, I get mine in person.
Oh, like February 2023?
Yeah, it's like last year for February.
So we requested help from procurement in May last year.
Yes.
So it was finally in December last year that the person was assigned to us.
Yeah,
So-
isn't it crazy?
Right, but that's, this is where we are. So, and thank you, Sam, actually, because I didn't want to say it outright straight up, but I'll just say, the reason we're so late in it, it's not because of lack of trying. Lawrence's part of mine, but we're working on it, and we're actually getting a lot of help from our colleagues in the office because they've gone through multiple RFA processes as well. So they're helping us, right, Lawrence? So do you want to talk about these? I'm just telling them that it's not our fault.
That's okay.
That is not our, but.
No, we have made some ground on the RFA itself. And I feel really positive and excited about where we're going with it. We do have someone from procurement. She is working with us. We are making strides and moving forward with this. We have worked with some of our colleagues who have extensive experience with RFAs and grant managements and so forth like that, and procedures and policies that go along with that. So we do today have a cadre of people working with us to put this thing forward. And again, I feel positive and really excited about what's going to happen. I can't give you a date as to when it's going to come to fruition, but what I can say is, after the absence of inactivity, things are really picking up. And like I said, I feel really good about where we are.
Do you want to remind us the three type of
So
programs that we will be soliciting applications for?
Yes, and the three programs that we will be soliciting for are delinquency prevention, alternatives to detention, and community-based programs. So those are the three target areas that we're looking at. And
What was the first one again?
delinquency prevention,
Okay.
alternatives to
From
detention, and community-based programs.
And because the sort of slow than expected procurement process, we will now have 3 fiscal years to award. So now we will be looking at fiscal year 21, 22, and 23. So that will be 3 sets of awards in each of the categories. And I think we have like, what, 150,000 in community-based programs.
Yes, 150 in community-based programs. I'm going to say 150 in alternatives to detention and 100,000 in delinquency prevention.
Per grantee? Per county?
For total.
So that will be, so in each of the fiscal years, right? So that we'll have 3 sets. So each set includes 150,000 for community-based programs, 150,000 for delinquency prevention. I think it's 100,000 for alternatives to detention. So
400,000.
right, per year. So, but we will issue 9 awards. So that will be a pool of 9 awards to be issued.
So think of it as this: there's 3 buckets.
Yeah.
And in each bucket,
There'll be 3.
there'll be 3. Total 9 awards.
So, yeah.
So then, if I'm a grantee, I get, it's only for 1 year then?
So it doesn't have to be 1 year. It could be for 18 months. The program is this. So because it's kind of like it's backed up so much. The fiscal year 21 ends, like the money dies on September 30th, 2025. So 21 award cannot go further than that. And again,
And hopefully we'll get it out.
Right.
So they can take advantage of the full 18 months that's still available to them from
But
the fiscal year 2021.
But the ones getting a later award, like 21, 22, and 23, their award period can be longer.
But not the amount of money is not more.
But not the amount of money, right? So they cannot get more money, but they can get more time.
So the intent behind it is not to be ongoing, sustained based money. It's
Right. So it's an investment. It's not a to sustain something. It's like a seed money
Right.
in a way.
To do like a pilot.
But that's a
Yeah.
lot of money per grantee though, like 150.
Well, you know, if you hire people to do the work, and then you.
So it's all or nothing basically. So there isn't small amounts. It's just like one entity gets selected per category.
No, it's really, so usually youth development Oregon grants are in that amount, 150 to 100,000 for, because we're looking at not adding money to an existing program really, but an opportunity to develop something new. And that requires hiring people, you know, getting it going.
Yeah.
So.
No, I was just clarifying.
Right,
I just
right.
was not familiar.
And also it's, people don't have to apply to 150. If you can do the program in 130,000, you can apply for that too.
So typically then comes back after all of it, then there's been historically small pots of money that we've done smaller grants with, just historically.
Yeah.
And a couple of programs have had to turn money back, and then we've just done some smaller programs with it after that. But trying to get the money out the door the first in a smaller number of grantees makes it much more manageable for these guys.
So we'll hopefully by the time we see you again, at least the draft will be completed.
Yes.
Good. Once the RFA is out, we will be asking you to review the applications. Because that's your requirement of the state advisory group. And Sam was laughing because he used to do that.
Do we have a goal date of when to remove that mapping?
When we asked that question of our procurement officer, she almost had a heart attack.
Okay.
So we will, unless she told you something last week when I was not there, did she? No, Lawrence, no. So no, sorry. We were hoping to get it done as quickly as possible with the start date for projects being April 1, but apparently I was just
Very hopeful.
yes.
I'm still hopeful.
Yeah, overly hopeful, and I think people that thought like April 1 was gonna be a joke, but it's, so honestly, I don't know. I just, unfortunately, it's not within our control.
Yeah, she said, Anya sent it to the last February, I submitted our paperwork for our 23-25 period that started July 1. And still hasn't, our contracts still haven't gone out, so I'm still sitting on like, for this year, over $20 million. Yeah, for one of my programs hasn't gone out yet, and then YSEP's not done yet too, like, the YSEP contracts are not done, so, and then and then YSEP is roughly about like 9 or 10 million, but then they're behind me, like, Adam is behind, because my other program has priority, is the day in residential, like Farm Home, St. Mary's and all these, there's a lot more of those programs than YSEP, so. And then I know OD procurement is prioritizing, I don't know how they're prioritizing for us by the number of contracts and the money, so that's why our LTCT annually it's about like 22 million, hasn't gone out yet, even though the period started July 1. So yeah, it's really bad. Yeah, so JDIP just got done in January. Yeah.
Yeah, Sam, you have my deepest sympathy and understanding, because it's really painful.
Yeah, everybody.
It's painful.
Yeah.
It's, so when I complain about procurement,
Yeah, no,
it's, I'm not just being selfish or.
And I think that's part of the school district's issues too, is getting contracts out, so. Okay. Thank you for the update, and we'll have more moving forward, and as procurement is ready, we will be ready for them. The next is the 2024 meeting schedule.
So So we were trying to move away from first Monday of the month. And so Joy sent out this survey monkey for today's meeting, hoping that we could be used, what is it today?
It's the second Wednesday.
Second Wednesday of the month as an ongoing meeting. Is that something?
It looks like we have a pretty good turnout.
It's always a conflict for me. I have
Is it?
my manager's meeting today, so I had to leave an hour early for that, from that to be here. And then there will be several months where it goes longer because it's in person several times a year and it goes till 4. So cutting an hour early, I could probably do, but then there's several times a year that I won't be able to cut it.
What if it's from 1 to 3? So
That's worse,
That's
because we
worse.
start at
Yeah.
9. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So would it be helpful? So Melissa knows the secret how to send out a survey.
We can send out a survey that's in a different format than the doodle poll that went out. Yeah, asking things like which week is best and which time of the day is best.
I mean, like I said, this is fine. I just have to, there are some months that I won't be able to make it at all. And then there's some months, depending on what's on the meeting agenda and my other meeting, I might have to be late. I'm just one person, so if it works for everybody else, then.
So let's do that, but let's plan for March on the second Tuesday.
Okay. Which is
Not Wednesday.
Tuesday?
No, second Wednesday. I was thinking, that's why I was looking at it, like, wait, maybe today's Wednesday, the second Wednesday of March. And so what we can do is continue to hone this in, but at least in March. And that is before the YDC.
It's the day before.
That's okay.
Okay.
Before that, so that if there's any decisions and recommendations, we can move those to the YDC.
So
So
that will be
in
March
person?
13th.
Will that be in person just like this?
Is Salem a good place for the March meeting or?
It's great for me. I live in Salem.
Okay, let's do it.
I think I'm the one that travels the farthest. Portland, Oregon City, right? Clackamas. As long as there's not snow in the gorge, I'm fine. There's gonna be snow on the way home today, so I can still make it. I think once the session is done, and if we're not meeting right before YDC, I would love to host everyone at Norcor in Wasco County. And
In
have-
April.
April, we can do April in Wasco County and have you come see our facility.
That'll be awesome.
And give you, yes, we love to show off our Wasco County stuff.
Kim, if traveling 2 days in a row is too much, you can always join online. So it will be always a hybrid.
Oh yeah, always a hybrid option.
I know we're still working on finding a different time, but is it possible to set out April as well? It's just 'cause my schedule's already filling out for April.
Sure. So it will be April, what's the second month, Wednesday in
I
April?
think it's the 10th.
So April 10th.
Debbie, how does that, is that one of your long days?
No, I think we're in person again in June.
Okay, so April, the second Wednesday in April also will be wonderful, and we'll invite you to Norcor.
Awesome. So Joy, do you think if you could send out like a
For at least the next 2 months?
next 2 months, maybe even just to the end of the year? We can
Yeah.
always change
We
if
can always,
necessary, but this way you could put it on your calendar.
Yeah.
And there will be always a hybrid option.
Always a hybrid option.
Wherever we're meeting.
Yeah.
Would it at Norcor, will it be 2 to 4 also? Or will it be early? Okay, 2 to 4.
And if we go to Northwood, of course, that'll be staying overnight option, which we will cover. Sorry, no.
It's not that far.
I'm not, well, if we're done at 4, I'm not hitting Portland traffic.
That's the challenge, right? It's the 5
Yeah.
o'clock traffic.
Yeah, so.
You can slip by
Yeah.
and slip up, take Marine Drive.
So
and-
it's an option, you don't have to, but if you prefer to
Yeah, you can,
stay.
well, Marcella can get around it, but people that have to come to Salem don't have the same option.
You have to wait.
Okay, all right, great work on that. As we have our last 12 minutes, I just want to open the dialogue on the detention guidelines. And maybe get just some thoughts on how we want to go about it. So detention guidelines were last updated in 2020. And we did a very extensive process in updating our detention guidelines back then. I think it was approximately an 18-month process. Might have even been closer, I think it was about 18 months. And we had a lot of partners at the table help us with our detention guidelines. And so let me do just a tiny bit of framing for that. Detention in the state of Oregon, many states have compliance under what's called the American Correctional Standards. And so they have a certification process that many states have their detention facilities become accredited under ACA, American Corrections, under the ACA. Oregon, like so many things, we do it different than they do it nationally. And we do it internally inside of the state of Oregon. And what we did during the last detention guidelines update is we took really 3 tools together that we then kind of enmeshed and brought into our current detention guidelines. One is statute. What does the law say? So chapter 169 of Oregon Revised Statute really dictates a lot of what we do. And it was really what Christina was talking about, what DOC comes in and looks at. They take chapter 169 at our DOC, Department of Corrections inspection, and they just run right down that set of statutes. And that's fine. But we wanted to do something better than that. And so this last time around, we took the ACA standards, which we were able to get a hold of, and we took the Annie E. Casey self-assessment tool, which is a self-assessment tool ran through the Annie Casey Foundation for the Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative. And so really what the Annie Casey Foundation self-assessment is best practices. And so we took statute, ACA, which are not bad practices, they're good practices, but they're a little bit more regulatory too. And we took some of the softer best practices that are currently out there with the best technology, and we brought them together and meshed them together. We got done with that process in November or December of 2019. And they were published officially at the beginning of January of 2020. And part of that was we needed to do an inspection of a detention facility. And so the idea behind it is similar to the extended detention, is once we get back on track, is using the detention guidelines to create teams to then go inspect the different detention facilities around the state. I think we had a lot of lessons learned from the one we did at Lynn County. But I want to tell you, we did the one at Lynn County on January 31st of 2020. And everyone knows that 14 days later, our lives shut down. And so we never even really had the opportunity to debrief about that particular process, which left this really weird space. So Lynn County didn't even get to debrief with us. So we came in, we inspected them, we left, and then nothing. So we need to pick that back up. The detention guide.
And no other detention facilities, it hasn't been used yet.
No, Sam was with us.
Yeah. Just so that everybody, yeah.
Yeah.
It was one and done.
It was one and done. And yet detention facilities are asking for this because they spend a lot of time learning about it and really kind of coming up to what the guidelines said. They were excited about it. And we have a model to look at, which is the adult side. So adult jails have teams that do inspections on a pretty regular basis for the adult side. So we don't have to completely reinvent everything that goes into it. And similar to the conversation we had about the application, we do need to be able to figure out how to upload those documents into a central location, because when we're talking about the detention guidelines, we're talking about a 120-page document. So there's a lot there. So that's what we need to take a look at. Since 2020, we've had 2 legislative sessions. Actually, we've had 4 legislative sessions because we've had 2 short sessions and 2 long sessions. We just need, I don't know that I would be very excited about opening up the detention guidelines again, because I think we did really good work, but we do need to make sure that we incorporated the laws that changed over the last 4 years. And there's been several, like expunction laws. And that wasn't there in just passed in 2019.
Well, I just hide under the.
I know. Poor Debbie.
I'm just kidding.
Don't say the E word.
Yeah, don't say the, but there's been some things like that detention facilities need to respond to, and there's some other little things that have happened that we
What
need to.
restraint and seclusion, was that after 2020?
No, it was, I think those are in, restraints and seclusion, I think is in the detention guidelines.
But then the reporting to, I forgot, DHS is new, right?
The Otis stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, that is new.
So I think we would need to
Yeah.
open them up.
Correct, but not for the same 18-month process that we did before.
But also that process took so long because we were making them new.
Oh, totally
We
new.
were not
Sorry
only
for
looking
that.
at,
Yeah.
we were not only looking at the statutes, but we're offering best practices. So a lot of the wording in the guidelines is actually best practice. And don't leave today until I give you your own printed copy of the guidelines. Because once they were printed and we were supposed to distribute them to everybody. So the boxes are still sitting in the cubicle.
Yeah.
That's what those boxes are.
Your present for everyone.
Yeah, we have presents and maybe Molly, you can autograph.
So I think, so I just want to lay the groundwork today. They don't need to be done by March, but they do need to be done this year, hopefully by June. And coming up with a schedule, again, for us to be able to go see the 11 detention facilities in the state of Oregon. And really understand what those 11 detention facilities, you know, the detention managers and the workers in those facilities do really, really good work, and they would like us to be able to acknowledge it. And we need to be able to give them feedback to do even better. So they're kind of sometimes the forgotten part of our juvenile justice system because, well, they're over there, you know. And so similar to just celebrating the JIAC that we went to in Clackamas County is really giving the acknowledgement to the good work that our detention facilities do. So, and feedback for them to even be better. So, any questions about the guidelines? Anyone running away now that I said, oh my gosh, we have 126 pages to look at?
So can you clarify the ask, Molly?
Yeah.
You want us, we're not updating the guidelines.
We are gonna update the guidelines.
But for legal standards only, not like other best practice.
Correct, we're not gonna
Okay.
open them back up to try to combine everything in
Okay.
them.
And then it's, once they're updated, to actually go out and review
We're gonna be asking
each
for
of the
teams.
11 sometime in before the end of 2024.
Yeah, we're gonna ask for teams to go out,
So was the June, the time that you had for the, let's.
get it
go-
done,
Okay,
get ready to go.
whatever revisions, plan the teams, all that stuff. Okay.
We might be able to get it done before then, but I don't think so. Give us a safe one. Maybe if we get them done on May, then we can start scheduling, but the ask is considering being on a team. All of us won't go to all of them. A couple of us will go, and then we'll ask the detention managers to also help us out.
Doug was very instrumental. from Hawaii.
Doug Thomas.
Oh, Doug
Yeah,
Thomas.
he was the.
Oh, with the guidelines?
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of his jam.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he used to do before us, so he loves that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the things we really do need to do, that I will just be really honest, is the documentation piece of going out and doing the inspection was really, really clunky. And learning how to do that is a key piece of it. It needs to be more streamlined.
I wonder, and I am not offering up OA resources per se in terms of this whole process, but and you guys all have to do this locally as well, in terms of detention centers, is pre-audits. And the only reason I bring that up is I wonder what type of process they use for their documentation, and if there's anything that we could learn from that. And so I'm wondering if I could like just talk with Alicia and just, I don't know.
OSSA has a really good process too. The Sheriff's Association.
That they do for the jails.
Yeah, that they do for the jails, but they won't talk to us about it because it's proprietary.
Oh.
They own it.
Well, and I wasn't so thinking much content. I was
No, but even the
thinking,
process.
oh, okay, well.
So I think
Yeah,
for
well, in the
me,
sandbox.
what I remember from that visit, the challenge I experienced was, actually I was what's that attorney's name?
Sarah.
Was Sarah. The hardest part was interviewing youth because we didn't have a script of questions. So that was to me was most important lesson learned, because we do want to get some feedback from the youth in the facility, but we need to know exactly what questions to ask, so we don't improvise as we go. Because that put both Sarah and myself in a very sort of uncomfortable situation. And then the question is, so that needs to be really thought through and worked through. Like when we are interviewing youth, what questions do we ask? How do we ask them? Those kind of, whether they're appropriate or not. So I think that's a significant part of the review process that we need to pay attention to.
Is there any guidance from the Annie Casey
On interview.
model that they had for kind of that?
The
doing that?
self-assessment.
Yeah, I thought there was something in there.
I will have to take a look back. I also think the detention managers will be able to give us some kind of guidance on that as well. I felt that I wasn't with Sarah and Anya, and I sat.
Well, we went in excited because it was such a wonderful opportunity, but when we were in there, it felt really awkward.
Yeah.
My kid, the young people that I sat down and visited with, I'm in detention all the time, so it didn't feel different or weird for me. So it's almost even partnering who you partner with to interview.
Yeah.
Is if I would have been with Anya or Sarah, it might have been a different experience because I talk to kids in detention all the time. And so making sure that we partner the right people together, I think
what would have helped us was a list of questions to ask, but we were just having a free-flowing conversation, which was very,
you
very
guys were
interesting.
chatting.
Yeah, we were just sitting there and chatting, but
Well, knowing having a list of questions, you can ask them in many different ways, but having a list of questions, make sure that you're comparing apples to apples.
Exactly. But we were just improvising.
And the kids were engaging.
Yeah. So it wasn't we didn't make I don't think.
No, it wasn't awkward.
We made the youth feel awkward. We were unscripted, literally.
Yeah. So I think that is good. So I'll look at the Casey stuff because I'm not sure. I bet they have it. I bet CJJ has something too.
I thought, yeah,
I think there is.
We did that self-assessment when I was still in Multnomah County. Now I'm like cobwebs in my mind, but I could have sworn we did have, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a script, but we had some guidance from them.
Yeah, I think so.
Plus they've, since then, they've done a lot of work with their own youth advisory. Yeah, so I think there might be something out there that they could share.
Okay. So that's the ask. So the ask is, when we get the legal pieces of it, making sure and just reviewing them to make sure that something's just not glaringly wrong. Like that we just missed something. Partners at the table at the time were ODE, DOJ, I mean, there were, I could give alphabet soup. Every alphabet in the state of Oregon was at the table. So, okay. It's 4:00 afterwards and I'd like to end things on time. Any other business? Cliff had to hop off. Are there any other public members?
At the moment, no, just Brian.
Okay.
He's still virtual.
He hung in there with us. Thank you, Brian. Cliff's comments, just as an email to me, is if he has the opportunity to participate in the detention guidelines, he would like to have the opportunity to participate. So that was awesome from Cliff. And Yamhill County has been really active in this before, Scott. Anything else for the good of the order? CJJ is at in May.
Yeah, end of May. If you're interested in going, make sure you also know.
ASAP. Yeah. I think that's it, guys.
Don't live without the guidelines.
Oh, yeah.